This morning, we know who will be sitting on the state's largest school board.
One incumbent is keeping her seat, while the challenger in what was probably a controversial race, or the most controversial, took more than 0.5% of the vote. Here are the unofficial results. Annalee Maestas will keep her seat with 72% of the vote in District 1. In District 4, the seat will be taken over by retired APS teacher Barbara Peterson, who took 63% of the vote from 4 other candidates. And the most talked about results come from District 2, where most outspoken member Kathy Court lost her seat to Peggy Muller-Aragon and wasn't even close, with Muller-Aragon taking 63% of the vote.
These reforms are causing havoc in our schools, and they're forcing established teachers to leave their profession.
That's Court speaking out, as she usually does, against the governor's education reforms. And after her loss last night, that wasn't any different. We took a look at her election Facebook page, where she thanked her supporters and also spoke about the harmful education policies that are hurting kids, schools, and teachers. She says, one person at a time, we will continue to inform parents about the flawed education policies that are coming out of Santa Fe. It costs $500,000 to put on an election that most people in Albuquerque don't very much vote in.
Yeah, the turnout numbers were low, really low this time. News 13's Catherine Mazzone took a look at them this morning. She has more from the Newsplex. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Adam, APS alone has 14,000 employees and 90,000 kids. Yet when it came to picking the people in charge of all of that, voters just didn't show up. Now, we checked the polling places yesterday, and they weren't busy enough to turn voters away. The Bernalillo County clerk tells us fewer than 8,000 showed up to vote for APS and CNM board members, a turnout of less than 3% of eligible voters. That means taxpayers essentially spent $65 per vote. One school board member sees the low turnout as a contradiction.
Everyone has an opinion about public education, but no one goes out and votes.
Have those elections on days when people do vote, alongside a governor or mayor's race. The state constitution actually doesn't allow that. They say school board elections must be held on different days than other elections. Now, attempts to change that law fell short with voters in 2008 and last year. Crystal, back to you.
Catherine, coming up in our next half hour, we're taking a look at the big decision board members will now face this year. You can get your full APS and CNM school board election results on our website, KRQE.com.
2 people are injured this morning after police say a man driving a stolen truck crashed into another truck in Rio Rancho. Officers say they tried to pull that suspect over in a neighborhood off Southern, but he took off and officers followed. The runaway driver ran a 3-way stop and hit a pickup. Witnesses describe what happened next.
The police had just pulled up and they were behind their cars. They had pulled guns out and were approaching the smaller of the 2 red trucks, trying to get the guy to come out.
The department couldn't tell us if officers were chasing the suspect at the time of the crash. Both the suspect and a victim in the other pickup were injured. New Mexico State Police say a man is dead after 2 semis collided in Lee County last night. Police say Fabian Zapata was driving southbound on Lee County Road near the intersection of Monsanto Road. Another driver near him was passing him on the left at the same time he tried to turn left. That's when Zapata's truck hit the other one and veered off the road, turning over onto its roof. The 32-year-old died on scene. The other driver was not injured.
The New Mexico Attorney General says his office needs more money to catch and convict sex offenders. Hector Valderas announced his support for a new bill yesterday. It would collect a $140 fee from convicted sex offenders every time they have to register. The state has 4,000 registered sex offenders, so that would bring in more than $500,000. Valderas says that money will go towards helping the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. He says there's just 5 full-time investigators tracking some 8,000 leads on people trading child porn.
Protecting children at this point is at a crisis level, so I'm hoping the legislature will look at all options they have to maximize funding. We are severely underfunded.
The task force also goes after predators who try to lure kids on the internet, then meet them.
The State House has passed a bill requiring cell phone companies to issue Amber Alerts. Republican Sarah Maestas Barnes of Albuquerque sponsored that bill. She says expanding the system will reach more people and save more lives. The The bill now moves to the Senate for consideration, and if approved, the alerts will come at no charge to customers.
A controversial bill clears a big hurdle and now will head to the House for a full vote to become law. A panel of state lawmakers voted to stop social promotion by holding back third graders from moving to the next grade level if they're having trouble reading. The House Education Committee approved the social promotion legislation yesterday. Supporters say it gives the the students a chance to catch up. Opponents say holding kids back should be based on teachers' assessment, not test scores.
507, a bill to stop coyote hunting contests in New Mexico is drawing attention at the Roundhouse. That proposal has been introduced by Republican Senator Mark Moores and Democratic Representative Jeff Steinborn. The lawmakers have almost a dozen or so other groups backing them up. If passed into law, contests, I should say, would be illegal and a misdemeanor if one was to be held. Many land and livestock owners spoke out against the proposal yesterday. The New Mexico Cattle Growers Association and the Northern New Mexico Stockmen's Association say the contests are necessary to control population. KRQE is staying on top of the latest from the 2015 legislature as it unfolds right now. Everything you need to know is on air and online. Just head to krqe.com, click the news tab, then hit 52nd legislature, I should say.
Get ready to shell out more for tuition if your child will attend Eastern New Mexico next fall. If you're an undergraduate, you'll pay $155 more per semester, and it'll be $170 more for graduate students. The Vice President of Business Affairs says they need to raise rates to compensate for state funding they assume won't come through this year. Okay, imagine living with roaches, lots of roaches, and you didn't cause them. Residents at an Albuquerque apartment complex are pointing the finger at a problem tenant.
They say a hoarder is to blame for that big bug problem there. A woman who lives at the Arioso Apartments on Montgomery near Louisiana says she's been complaining to her landlord since October about a roach problem. But when you look at what she was living next to, it may come as no surprise. The person in an apartment moved out and left a mess behind. Men in protective clothing hauled out the trash yesterday. The apartments are run by a company called Graystar. They have not responded to our questions about why it took so long to take care of the problem. Other residents also sent us pictures. We have those photos online right now, krqe.com.
And talk about extremes. Another apartment complex in Texas is making sure doggy doo-doo is picked up by turning to DNA. They're ordering all residents with pets to bring them in for DNA testing so they can track down who is slacking when it comes to cleaning up after their animals. Residents who are busted will be fined $500. Some who live there say it's just going too far, comparing the fine to a speed trap in a small town. But management says it's a good way to get money for new amenities for that complex.
Dog owners, I'm sure, not very happy about that. I know. Kristen, thanks. Developing right now, an APD officer is in critical condition this morning after he was hit on his motorcycle. Investigators say whoever did hit him took off after the crash. APD says veteran officer Ray Loomis, seen here in a picture from years ago, was off duty when he was hit by a driver in a red sedan just after 5 yesterday evening. It happened on I-40 westbound between Rio Grande and Coors. So far, police have not named any suspects, and they're not saying if they have any leads. DOT does tell us there are cameras in the area, but they don't record anything. I-40 was closed for more than 4 hours while police investigated. It did reopen around 9 o'clock last night. You may have a much easier drive to work or school on that stretch of I-40 this morning. The crash forced the freeway to shut down for hours while police investigated. Traffic was backed up for miles, even past the Big I.
It was bumper to bumper, and we were moving like maybe 2 car lengths every 20 minutes, maybe. It was really bad.
I got on at Louisiana, and just like a little ways after that, it was just packed the whole way.
We questioned the Department of Transportation about why it didn't use a new removable barrier to help clear traffic there. That is on I-40 just east of the river and slides open to let drivers turn around when there's a big backup. The department tells News 13 a part they ordered is faulty and the barrier still doesn't work.
The results are in. Albuquerque has elected its new school board. Less than 8,000 people actually cast their vote. That's less than 3% of eligible voters. The norm for school board elections, actually. As News 13's Catherine Mazzone looked into it, the board now has a big decision to make. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. And you're absolutely right. For those who voted, their ballots carried a lot of weight. The Albuquerque School Board only has 3 duties, and one of them could make a significant difference in the way the largest school district in the state operates. The board is tasked with setting policy, approving and overseeing the district's $1.3 million budget, and this year choosing a new superintendent. That superintendent will lead a district of close to 88,000 students, and you, the taxpayer, will fork over several $100,000 to pay for it. City Councilor Brad Winter took over as interim superintendent when the last super, Winston Brooks, resigned amidst controversy. Now, APS says they wanted to have this new board in place so that incoming members would have a say in the superintendent decision. Back to you, Crystal.
All right, thanks for that information, Catherine. Now, even though turnout was minimal, that does not mean the election was cheap. In fact, it cost $500,000. That's about $65 per vote.
So who are the winners? One incumbent will keep her seat, but the challenger in what was probably the more controversial race took more than half of the vote. Here are the unofficial results. Annalee Maestas will keep her seat with 72% of the vote in District 1. In District 4, the seat will be taken over now by retired APS teacher Barbara Peterson with 63% of the vote from 4 other candidates. The most talked about results come from District 2, where the most outspoken member, Kathy Court, lost her seat to Peggy Muller-Aragon, and it wasn't even close, with Muller-Aragon taking 63% of the vote there. You can get your full APS and C&M school board election results right now online at KRQE.com.
More officers on the street. That's what City Council hopes for after a big decision to give all officers, including APD's top brass, more money to stay on the force. After a debate Monday night, the City Council rejected restricting extra cash, up to $12 grand a year, to rank and file officers patrolling the streets. This means the pay will be boosted for any veteran officers, regardless of rank, if they agree to postpone retirement. The incentive program is meant to help with the officer shortage. APD's goal is to get back up to 1,000 officers. Right now, it's more than 100 officers short of that. The clock is ticking for the homeless camp known as Tent City in downtown. The city says they have just one more day to clear out, but some are refusing to leave. Yesterday, the city and homeless outreach groups were back on First and Iron, letting people know about the resources that are available to them.
We're trying to offer resources again and then trying to get people into shelters, inpatient treatment, detox.
Now, if people are not packed up by tomorrow, the city says it will likely file for eviction notices.
5:36 now. As the measles continues to spread across the country, more people are now concerned about unvaccinated children in New Mexico. The outbreak is sparking heated political debate. Should states require that all children be vaccinated by law? The New Mexico Department of Health says more and more parents are opting out of vaccinating their kids. The state allows exemptions for medical or religious reasons, and lawmakers we spoke with still think the current laws are working.
And I really think it's a case of New Mexico doing something right with the vaccination program that we've had historically.
The governor's office also says it supports current New Mexico law and thinks that children should be vaccinated to protect them from dangerous diseases. Happening right now, investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board are sifting through the wreckage of a deadly train crash, and it really has become quite difficult to get into it.
Yeah, as you can see from the video, that train slammed into a Jeep, sparking a fire, killing at least 6 people. It happened yesterday during rush hour traffic. Investigators say the driver of the Jeep, a woman, tried to make it over a train crossing when the gate came down on her car. They say she got out to take a look, then decided to drive across the track anyway. That's when she was hit. Witnesses say the scene was so horrific, with the first train car becoming fully engulfed in flames.
When I heard the extent of the damage to the first car and I saw that it had burned completely, I couldn't even imagine how many people were in there that had lost their lives.
A service on the rail line where the accident happened has been suspended. Shuttle buses will now be used to transport commuters in that area. And this morning, new dash cam video in This Morning shows another deadly plane crash. It's right there on the bottom part of your screen in Southwest Asia. Take a look at the left-hand corner of your screen. You can see Trans-Asia flight GE-235 falling out of the sky over the capital city of Taiwan. The plane plunged into a river. Officials say 54 people were on board. Search and rescue is now underway. Right now, at least 19 people are dead, 16 others injured.
Dramatic, that person capturing that video in the interesting place at the same time.
Scary scene.
Yeah, it sure was.